We're joined with Perri, partners with Beef Building Development, and also Renovating Mates on Instagram. I'm so thankful for your time and really looking forward to this conversation. I want to firstly start off your renovation journey. It's kind of gained a lot of traction, especially with Renovating Mates. What prompted you to start Renovating Mates?
Thank you. I'm excited to have a chat. We started Renovating Mates, it wasn't actually that long ago. It was actually only a few years ago, but we've been renovating for 10 years now. My husband and I, and we have a building company, so we were always sharing bits and pieces, but we just found we needed a place to just share our renos and to go more in depth with them, and it's been perfect. It's been really nice because we can really elaborate on our style and why we do things. So that's how Renovating Mates was born.
Beautiful. And I guess it just gives people an insight, your followers, to learnings, do's and don'ts. I'm sure we're going to touch on all the learnings you've had. You've mentioned 10 years.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, it's a long journey. I'm sure you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I want to chat about your most recent project. What's the name of that?
Allambi House. So it's on Allambi Street. So it
is phenomenal. It is amazing. The style is unique. I guess, well, from my perspective, no one's done it. Where did you obtain that style from?
Yeah, so we've done a few renos now, and we've always stuck to a really neutral style. And to be honest, the reason we've done that is just to make sure it's safe for resale. And we did love that. We love that calm feeling, but we just really wanted to do something else and challenge ourselves. And Eddie said, I want to go mid-century. And so I just kind of went to work on researching that and exploring what mid-century was and what that looked like. So we've gone a very modern mid-century. So you still go into the house, it still feels new and fresh, but you've got all those kind of retro features, which is a really nice feeling.
Yeah. And where was the kind of key things, for inspiration? What were you searching? Was it, typical Pinterest or what was your kind of process for that?
Definitely, I love Pinterest. I love Pinterest. I was freaking out about using colours and stuff. One of our really good friends that do developments as well, they did a little take on mid-century just before us. So I got lots of inspiration from their house, Pinterest. And you know what the internet's like these days. You start searching something and then more stuff starts popping up. So yeah, I found some really cool designers and just people to follow on Instagram as well. And yeah, just slowly had it all come together.
Was there any key rooms that you kind of designed the house around? Did you see a Pinterest post on a kitchen? You're like, okay, that's our starting point, or where did it kind of start for you?
Good question. No, I would say not. We knew there were certain things that we must have, and that we really wanted. For instance, we found the stone that we wanted, and we're like, we need to have this stone. It's beautiful. We knew we wanted to have a sunken lounge. So all of those things, we just kind of elaborated from there. But when you come into the house, most of the main areas are quite cohesive. And then we've gone a little bit adventurous in some of the rooms off that with different colours and stuff again. But it still feels cohesive.
Yeah. So obviously, we normally recommend consistency throughout. Did you find it was a bit of a risk not having the consistency? Although I feel like it does tie in pretty well.
Yeah. No, it did my head in. I was so scared, and I felt like because I'm a perfectionist, and I'm very big on things being cohesive. So it was definitely challenging. But after seeing other people do it and, going through other houses going, oh no, this still feels good. And like I said, all the main areas are quite cohesive. And even though there's various colours, they still work together.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is cool.
So how do you and your partner go? You find inspiration. Do you bounce stuff off each other, or is he coming to the party as well? Was there any moments where you questioned each other's decisions or?
Yeah, all the time, all the time. But we definitely both come to the party. He's a builder and has been for over 10 years now. So he's great at telling me what I can and can't have. Yeah. I always have I have ideas. I'm usually doing everything inside, and he's so good with outside, choosing how things are going to look outside, even with, the finishes and stuff. And then we bounce ideas off each other and go, that's going to look bad or that's going to look good. But yeah, he's often telling me I can't have that.
And probably both of you being very open-minded and creating something so special, it probably helps having that open-mindedness.
Yeah, he definitely had to put a lot of, like, he said he wanted a mid-century house. I would have probably never ever thought I would love a place like this, but I do. But when it come to choosing all the finishes and the interiors, he couldn't see the vision throughout. He was freaking out with a lot of my choices.
Yeah.
But it's worked out. Thank
gosh. Trusting one another, which is obviously a massive part of a relationship as well.
Yeah, that's so true.
So the highs and the lows throughout the renovations, you mentioned that, sometimes you didn't always see eye to eye. I want to start with the highs. What has been the most important and you've probably felt accomplishment throughout the renovation? What's kind of a key moment that you've felt that?
I feel like this is like, this would be anybody's that does a renovation. It's that end. Like, we've been living in the house since just before Christmas, and we've had so many moments just like sitting in the pool or sitting outside, and you're just looking back on the house and going, oh, this is really cool. We really love it. Or, having friends and family over and them just falling in love with it as well. I'd say nothing beats that feeling.
Like a proud feeling, obviously.
Yeah. Most of the time it's when it's just us or you're by yourself and you just look at it. It's usually when the sun's setting or your lights are on and stuff and you're like, yeah, we did good. We did good.
You made it. It's definitely an accomplishment in itself.
Thanks.
Obviously, you mentioned again 10 years of renovation with your partner as well. Throughout Allambi, there's got to be downsides to it as well. We can talk about the highs and sugarcoat it as much as we want. What was your biggest learning throughout it?
Well, any of the trades that work on site with us will tell you how much me and Eddie bigger. So we definitely, there's definitely lows and there's definitely disagreements, and there's challenges. They're probably one of the biggest challenges for us. This one was just the cost. We're going through a huge period in the building industry. You would understand as well with price rises. From when we started the reno, just every month, we were shocked by how much was getting spent and how much that budget had to increase. And so that was really stressful. And then just obviously there's always the time constriction, and we were renting. So wanting to get out of renting and get into the house, that's always hard as well. But, Eddie would say there's plenty other things like structural wise and stuff like that. But I would say for me, that was it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, just learn to navigate. I don't think we've been through a time like this where there's uncertainties on material pricing. It's a very weird time.
Yeah.
You mentioned you moved in prior to the renovations being finished. How do you kind of adapt with that? Obviously, trades coming and going. If people are thinking of living in their place while renovating, what advice would you give to them?
I wouldn't recommend.
Don't recommend it?
We didn't. Everything was mostly finished. There was just outside stuff to do. So it wasn't too bad. We have previously lived in a renovation whilst doing it, and I would definitely not recommend it. It cost a lot more money. Having to work around people living in a house takes more time. You got to think about the things like water, power can't be turned off. So that's really hard to work around, and most of the time it costs more money. So if you have the possibility to, move out and live with a friend or a family member, or if you can rent somewhere short term, if you're doing a big renovation, I'd definitely recommend that instead of living there.
Yeah, definitely. I would recommend it as well. It's definitely tough to live through renovations. Me and my partner did it as well. It's a very testing time.
Yeah.
Obviously, your partner's a builder. We've mentioned that.
Yeah.
Choosing trades, he's got connections, but a recommendation for people who may not have those connections, such as you and your partner do, where would you suggest people look for trades to use on their renovation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, there's so many people out there and it can be overwhelming. I would say if you're not in the industry, for us, we have a really awesome group of trades that we're really loyal to. They know the service, the quality we expect. And sometimes they're not always the cheapest, but they know what level they needed to deliver for our clients. If you're not in that industry and you don't know where to look, I would say recommendations, because it's easy to find someone that you think might be like looking like they're doing a great job, but actually hearing from others' experience, So if you've got a friend that has renovated recently, and just ask them who they used and what their experience was like. I think that's probably the best way to go.
Yeah, so definitely word of mouth and recommendations. And obviously it's very important, since you've got those relationships you mentioned, people or the trades know what you guys expect coming in and they deliver that to you as well.
Yeah.
I want to chat about the key features of the house. For me, like the pool, how the pool's hard up against the house, it's just phenomenal. What are the key things that you guys created that you intended to stand out, looking for resale as well?
Well, I would definitely say the sunken lounge. Like, we've just always wanted a sunken lounge, but it just wasn't possible and cost-wise. But we just knew once we wanted to do that mid-century style, and they call them conversation pits in the 60s. It was a really big thing. And so we just knew we really wanted to do one, and it's just as good as you can imagine.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Cool.
It looks
Sitting
phenomenal.
There, you feel really cozy. It's a really nice space, but I would say that's definitely one of our favourite features.
Yeah, and obviously creates a homely touch because you're living in it and you wanted to, create that homely feel.
Absolutely.
Was there a key impression you wanted people to feel when they walk through your front door to your place? Was that ever in the thought process?
Always. Like, we're always thinking about that from the moment, like, people pull up out the front. How's the house presented from the front? And as they walk through, like, we want that to feel good, the whole experience. I don't know, so many people walk into the house and like, wow, I love this, and they didn't think they would love that style. But I think it's so important to make people feel like it's homey, even though it's a beautiful property and it's luxurious. Like, we want it to still feel homey.
What are the key things you think that can create that homely feel and, make people feel comfortable when they walk in?
It's like colours and textures. Like, even like you walk in here, you've got this beautiful velvet couch and it's like a pop of colour. Like, it feels cozy, like you want to sit on it. It feels homey. So I think having those things, not understyling, like making sure that you've got sufficient styling, cushions and candles and artwork and stuff like that. I feel like that gives place that homey feel. Yeah.
And what about from the street appeal as well, trying to create that inviting, you drive along and see houses and you're like, oh, it just doesn't sit right with you. But you guys, what you've created feels very special and it feels warm. What's some key points of advice to create a warm and appealing street view?
I would say landscaping. Landscaping, yeah. And often people forget about landscaping the front facade. And so making sure you've got a really nice garden at the front. So we actually built our fence back like a foot, and put a built-in garden bed just out of bricks. And so it's elevated a little bit, but it literally, from the front of the house, you've got this beautiful garden bed as you drive up, which is so nice. We've got features as you enter the front gate, like some stone feature walls. And so little touches like that, and making sure everything's cohesive from, the features to your paint colour, your garage door, your gates and stuff. Make sure everything works in well together. They don't have to match, but as long as they work in well together. Yeah,
beautiful. I want to switch it up a little bit. We just touched before on how you and your partner butt heads a couple of times and you may bicker. It's a natural thing.
Mm-hmm.
For couples who are about to embark on their first renovation journey together, what's a key bit of advice to just trust the process? And, they are going to bicker, but to see it through, what's a key bit of advice that you would recommend for couples about to embark on that journey?
Like relationship advice?
Relationship advice. Well, just more so you're doing a renovation together. It's it's unfamiliar.
I feel like get on the same page. Make sure that from the get-go, when it comes to things like your mood board and figuring out what style you want, like, have a conversation and make sure you're on that same page. And then probably have a conversation too about what are each other's like must-haves. You said you had to have travertine.
Yeah, I did.
And so, like, have a conversation and make sure the other person is going to agree on that. And I think once you're on the same page, like, there's going to be things you got to compromise on. But just have a few things that each person's go, yeah, let's agree that you can have that.
Yeah, definitely. I guess compromising is a massive part, and seeing something and visioning it. You mentioned mood boards as well. Is that something that you created for this place, Allambi?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's not actually even a physical mood board, but
yeah, right.
Even just putting everything together like digitally. I had a spreadsheet of each room, to make sure everything, all the furniture, all the finishes, all the paint, carpet, rugs, everything would work together. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah.
It's one of my biggest things to make sure, like when you even, you see the curtain meets the floor, make sure those two things match and work well together.
So mood boards, it's not always a necessity to have that. You can have it digitally, and at least you can still visualize it. You can see it.
Yeah.
I noticed on Renovating Mates, which again has just obtained a lot of traction, what you're posting on there, I think is phenomenal. What I mostly like is with you going through the individual rooms, you style it in a way, but sometimes you backtrack on it and you're more than happy to, put that on social saying that, hey, I don't think this suits in this area. How important is it to be able to accept that you can't get it right the first time?
Oh, I feel like that's just styling a house. Like, I feel like, you put things, it's like playing around.
Yeah.
Like you put things in a place and sometimes you don't know until you've got it there physically with you. But, for big things, I'm always measuring and stuff and I'm always looking for inspiration. But yeah, sometimes you've got to move things around. And I always make sure whenever I buy stuff, keep the receipt just in case it needs to go back. But honestly, most of the time it works somewhere else in the house anyway.
Yeah, beautiful. Look, thank you again so much for your time. I want to finish off with asking for one key bit of advice that you would give to someone about, look, it could be more than one, just a key bit of advice that you've learned throughout your 10 years for renovation periods.
I would say just give it a crack. Like if you want to get into renovating, if you want to get into the property market, sometimes you can't always start where you want to start. Sometimes it might be, just an entry level property that for where you're at. It might be a unit. We've renovated 18 properties now, but only 6 of those have been houses because we had to do so many units before we could even get into the house market. So, sometimes where you start, it's not your end game, but just give it a crack, take risks, lean on support systems. If you've got people around you that are doing it, ask lots of questions. And it's scary, but it's worth it.
So definitely take the risk. And
yeah,
I guess it's probably important in today's, what's happening with the world at the moment, that you can't always have your dream home straight away. There's stepping stones there. And lastly, what we love to do with our guests on here is there's a billboard for the world to see. What's one quote, mantra, something you live by that you would write on that billboard?
So I actually asked my husband before I came here because I was like, I can't think of anything to say. And something he always says is, how good is living? And
love that.
It's so simple. He's been saying it for years and I'm finally getting stuck on it. But it's just a good reminder that if you're struggling, if you're going through something that's challenging, is to just look around, remember we're living, and just appreciate and take in all those small moments. Sometimes life isn't always perfect, but it just, we're here.
Yeah, I love that. That's phenomenal.
That's good.
We're going to link you out to your socials, both Beef Building Development and Renovating Mates. We highly recommend any of the listeners to jump on Renovating Mates. It's phenomenal. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're extremely busy. Can't wait to see your next project.
Thank you.
Beautiful.